pages, so a lot of pages. Oh my God.
it's a big grant.
Huh?
It's a big grant, so
I see it is.
yeah.
I see that.
It
It's a
needs
big
a
one.
it needs a lot of coordination, but it's worth it. It's definitely going
Yeah.
to be worth it. All
Yeah.
right, so what I want to do is keep it short and sweet. I don't want to overwhelm you right now,
Okay.
so we're just gonna do like a brief little overview, try to get into some of the first documents, and then we'll just schedule another meeting to talk about the additional items, okay?
Okay.
So for our first meeting, I'm trying to keep it light, not to burden you too much, and then when we schedule again, we can get a little bit deeper into it. But maybe we'll get into some of those
Okay.
heavier things for this meeting. Um,
Okay.
who do you have on your end?
It's just me.
Oh, just you. Okay. On my end, I have Mike with me, I have Alyssa, and I have Chris. All of us will be the team working on the grant for you, section 202. So the purpose of this meeting is for us to get started to review the section 202 supportive housing for elderly grant program. And the application due date is August the 28th, 2019. Will you be the grant point of contact?
Yes.
Okay. Will you have anyone else that we should be CCing
I'm
on the
gonna
email?
Miss Fraser and Mr. Mason.
Okay, all right, great. Okay. So the purpose of the section 202 is to allow nonprofit organizations to apply to HUD for funding to get a capital advance to either build, purchase and renovate, purchase and rehabilitate, purchase and reconstruct, a multifamily section 202 development property to serve low income persons um, that are seniors. And seniors are defined as persons who are 62 years old and older. So you will get a advance to do that, a capital advance. They will also give you for this funding 1 year of project rental assistance. That's the PRAC contract, where they'll give you 75% of your operating funds for that year. I think they're assuming that the residents' contributions to their rent will pay for the additional 25%, or if you have program income or something like that. And then they say that they will continue to fund you as long as Congress allocates money towards this grant program, okay? So eligible applicants are private nonprofit organizations with their 501c3 letter from the IRS or a 501c4 letter from the IRS. Eligible applicants can also be nonprofit consumer cooperatives. And I know you'll be applying as your 501c3, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Can can I interject? Can I get the full name, the legal entity name of the nonprofit, please?
Warner Robins Housing Authority Resident Council is one of them, and then we have Community Housing and Development Corporation. That's another one that we have. So I'll decide with Mr. Mason and Ms. Frazier which one we're gonna use.
Did we find out if an applicant can submit for two separate projects?
Yeah, we got that.
Okay.
I'm gonna send them the email.
Okay. We're trying to find out if you can submit for two separate projects, so maybe you can apply for two.
Okay.
We'll see how it works. So the period of performance, after you win the grant and get an award agreement, they give you up to 18 months to break ground, which is you must get all your financing, finalized with all of your partners. Everyone that needs to play their part in the financing of the project needs to come to the table, get all of that, done. And you must be able to break ground within 18 months.
And when you say financing, what do you mean?
So financing would be if you intend to purchase the land from a third party, or anyone that leverage financing to you to get the property up and to get the development up and going. They give you that 18-month period to finalize all of that.
Well, already have the site, the property already. You know, we already have the land, so we wouldn't have to do that.
Some applicants, they will need to buy the land because it's not theirs yet. So this application is for them to buy the land and build and all these things.
Okay.
So they give them that time to go through the process of the transaction of purchasing the land.
Okay. I understand.
The award amount is you can request up to 5 million per your project period. HUD says that they anticipate making 30 awards for this grant fund. When the announcement came out, HUD said that they had $110 million, which for this grant program, they were going to allocate 50 million. And then in 2020, they were going to allocate another 60 million. But after they had a webcast to talk about the program, and they found more money. So this year they'll still do the 50 million, but next year they have an additional they have a total of $110 million. So instead of 60, they have 110 million next year. So even more money will be available next year. Just FYI, if you wanna go after it again next year. So there are some funding restrictions. So the first one is acquisition of facilities currently owned and operated by a sponsor as housing for the elderly. The financing or refinancing of federally assisted or insured projects. You can't use this money to purchase those. Facilities currently owned and operated by the sponsor as a housing for persons with disability, except with rehabilitation. And units in section 202 direct loan projects previously refinanced under the provisions of that act. And also you can't do nursing homes, infirmatories, medical facilities, and those things. It has to be a facility where you will allow for the elderly people to live independently and age in place successfully. Okay, so I have, okay, I'm gonna ask you down here. So I want us to talk a little bit about the cost share and matching requirement. So the first cost share requirement for the grant application is a owner deposit of either 0.5% of the capital advance or $10,000, whichever, they don't want you to exceed 10,000. So if your 0.5% of the capital advance is more than 10,000, you're capped at 10,000. So they want you to put $10,000 in an escrow account for owner deposit. Also, they want you to put down.
You said what now? You said that $10,000 what goes where in the owner deposit?
Yes, they want you to put it. They want you to put it away in an escrow account, and that's the owner deposit towards your project, kind of like a down deposit if you're buying a house or something. So it's an owner deposit. The next one is a owner deposit for operating deficit. So they want you to put in an escrow account again, another 25,000 that they want you to designate for any operating shortfalls for the first 3 years of the operation of the development. So if you have to tap into this 25,000 because whatever they have given you plus the tenant, the resident's rent is less than what it actually takes to operate the development, and you have to tap into this consistently over a 3-year period, HUD says that they will need renegotiate your prac to see if they'll give you more, because if you have to be tapping into this, you don't have enough to operate, so they'll renegotiate with you to give you more prac. Then there
What
is,
is prac? Tell me what the prac is.
so the prac is the project rental assistant contract. So they will give you an annual contract where they subsidize the units and they'll give you an amount. They gave us a schedule, so they have a operating cost schedule that's on their website. Based on your area, you can request that amount per unit per year. So Chris will email that to you after this kickoff meeting so that you can see how much it is. And so when we're doing the budget, we will know how much to request for that first year. And they'll give us 75% of that.
Do you know how many units you are planning to construct?
Well, we're looking at least, I think maybe 20. We already starting with, it's gonna be an area we already starting to build tiny homes at for the elderly and veterans already. So we're gonna add, probably another 20, 25.
Okay.
What's the square footage of your tiny homes?
I think they're, I don't wanna misquote, I think they're up to, not 2,000, I know I'm crazy. They're up to 1,200 square feet, I think.
1,200?
Unless, 12, that's the highest, I think, the lowest is 900.
Okay, 900. Okay. Hold on a quick sec for me. Okay, so I do believe that the square footage can't exceed
Yeah, it has to be,
700.
yeah, it has to be an efficiency or a single bedroom.
Yeah, I mean the square footage. The square footage can't exceed.
Our tiny house is usually much smaller.
Yeah, I was saying those
They're like 400 square feet is a big tiny house.
That's operating, and then
But they just have to be, the additional square footage has to be, listed as an amenity and funded through other means.
That's right, I remember that.
I don't think she's gonna fund it with other means. I'm looking at Tiffany.
Well, that just means that they'd be funded, the prac would be funding less than 25%. My reading is that, so if they're only gonna cover 700, right, then their estimate is based on a 700, so if you have 1,000 square foot, then whoever's if they're not getting additional, then they just list it as an amenity and charge them that much rent.
Okay, so it says here, it's like they have one bedroom here, it's 700 square
Yeah,
feet.
so they're listing 2 bedroom for 900.
Right, so we have to keep them here
Yeah.
or else they have to pay, and they're not going to pay.
Okay.
If they had it to pay, they wouldn't apply for this. Okay, so the smallest ones are 900 square foot and the largest ones are 1,200 square foot. This grant has,
That's what I'm saying, it may be less, you know, I would have to get information on that, to be sure to give you the exact.
okay. The total development cost schedule has a limitation of 700 square foot for the one bedroom and 500 square foot for the, efficiencies. But we will, Chris, if you can contact the grant point of contact and find out how large these one
I mean,
bedrooms
we
can
could
actually
go
be.
larger, it doesn't have to be, it's like we're building the tiny homes there, but, you know, it doesn't have to be a tiny home, you know, of course, that's the square footage, I'm saying, we could go whatever we need to go with, you know, the square footage. You know, it's like
Okay.
a village, we're gonna have different types, size houses over there, you know, but we're starting out right now with the tiny homes, because that's what we have the funding for right now.
Okay.
So I already know that it's not a given, it's gonna be that size.
Okay.
If it can be large, if it has to be larger, then of course we're gonna go larger.
Okay.
They actually have to be smaller. This grant.
Smaller than what we are, yeah, oh my God.
Yes, ma'am. So this grant, they're looking to fund, efficiencies in single bedrooms only, and in their cost schedule, they have a list of square footage associated with each type, so it's 500 square foot for an efficiency and a 700 square foot for a single bedroom. Anything over that, it will have to be listed as an amenity, and they will not fund the additional square footage. So if you wanna get the maximum amount of money, per unit, you're gonna have to come in at their size for their cost schedule.
So you're saying 500 for efficiency and 700 square feet for a single bedroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right,
Okay.
I guess we'll do what we have to do.
Alright, so now we're getting into the good stuff. We're at line item 10. What's the address for your site?
Oh, man, well, it was, oh my God, I forgot.
You forgot.
I
Okay,
can get it though.
no problem.
I can get it.
No problem. Chris will request the address from you in an email or call you later on. No problem for that.
Okay, I'll get it, and I know it because I was calling Mr. Mason when I looked at the checklist to get it, but, he didn't, we missed each other's calls and, he didn't answer. So that's one thing I did see that I couldn't think of, and I know it, I think it was 119 Beacon Lynn Drive, but I'll make sure, double check.
Okay, do you
That's
know
what it used to be, it changed.
what the value of the land is? If you don't know it now, don't worry about it. Cause remember, this meeting is not to stress you out. It's just for us to just do a nice overview of the grant and just lay some foundation.
That's no problem, I mean, we can, all that, those questions can be answered, you know.
Do you know what the value of the land is?
That's why he did, Mr. Mason deal with all that, so he would be the one I go and get all those answers, so I can get the answers to him, that's no problem.
Okay.
I can get them today and email them back to you, you know, as soon as I finish with you, I can see if I get it.
Alright, okay,
And
Chris.
then we're looking at how many, and then I'm looking at this whole, how many units will you propose and all that. Developer, we got all those, we have all that already on file, he has all of that, so that's who we're working with now with the city, the developers and all of that. So he
Okay,
has all that information, and I can send it to you
okay.
today.
Alright, perfect. So you have your developer selected. Okay.
Yeah,
Do
yeah, all of that.
have you started your low income tax credit application yet?
We had one, a low income tax credit, we already had one.
You have,
At one time,
you had it at
we
one,
did, but, when we had, Rosemont Court, we had a low income tax credit
and who
already in place, but I could,
Just, we should ask if it's 4 or 9, cause if they get the 9%, that means they're competitive.
Hello?
Okay. Hi. Who completed your application for the tax credit?
I don't know, we've had that tax credit years ago, quite a few
Okay,
years ago. What we did, I think before we even knew you, for your grant writing, comprehensive grants. But I know we had a low income tax credit years ago, but
okay,
I can find out if it's still, in effect.
okay. Alright, so the reason why I'm asking you for the low income housing tax credit is because the capital advance for this grant will contribute 10% of the development cost for the project, 10%. HUD wants us to leverage additional, funding, so the big one is the low income housing tax credit, which the developer would have to help us to complete the application for you to go in and get tax credit towards this project. So we can,
But, so if we don't have, we should have it, but if it's not, we would have to go through the developer to complete the application for it, that's what you're saying?
yes, because in order to pay so this grant will pay 10% towards the total development costs and will also pay for the 1 year of the prac. And then after the 1 year, Congress will just allocate money continuously to fund your prac to keep it operated. But the 10%, you will need an additional 90% to complete the development of the project. So if you look in line item 25, these are options that HUD has given us to fund the additional 90% of the development. And the big one is the low income housing tax credit.
It's a line item 25.
Mm-hmm. So we can do a 9% low income housing tax credit. I believe the 4%, we can also do a 4%. I believe the 4% is non-competitive. The developer can waive his fee. We can get a mortgage from a bank to finance the balance. We can get other grant awards. We can get donation. For instance, the city can waive all utilities. They can waive the property tax. You could have also develop program income if you know you have like a store, convenience store, something there that would have program income, then we could leverage that as well. But that leverage would have to be for the operating, so we're actually just talking now about the development costs, which the big one is we must get that low income tax credit. So one of the next things we need to do in our next meeting is to talk to the developer and to work more intimately with the developer to get us all the items that we need for the application package. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so let me go back to the overview. Alright, so I have done the overview with you, what the grant is about, what it spends the money on. We talked a little bit about your project, but Chris will send you an email asking a little bit more information about it, requesting that information for the developer's contact information. You will be using your land to construct approximately 20 units. So that's the game plan. Do you have any questions for me now that I've done the overview of the grant?
No, I'm gonna go in here and, sit down with Mr. Mason on this right here, what you went over, cause you're right, it is overwhelming. I've gotten
Alright, I wanna talk to you about
That's
one.
it. So the grant overview is overwhelming as itself, so I hate to see the other face.
Alright, so I have one final thing and then that will be the end for us, cause my goal is definitely not to overwhelm you. Okay, so.
Yeah, I got you.
I know that the resident council is registered on grants.gov. Is the other nonprofit registered on grants.gov?
I would have to check and see. And I know we are registered as an agency, you know, the one around the Housing Authority. But I would definitely have to check and make sure that they are registered.
Okay. Alright.
Because I haven't used them in a while, and it's been a minute, but I can definitely go and check.
Mm-hmm.
I like that to check on that too.
So what I'm,
All that other.
my recommendation is that we actually have another kickoff call with Mr. Mason.
Yes, I already said that.
Okay.
Mr. Mason, the next call.
Okay. Alright, when can we schedule that next call for?
Let's look at, do you want it to Monday? Next week?
No, Monday's good, or this week would be better actually,
Well, we
because.
going and follow up with it. Let's look at Thursday.
Okay.
Let me see what I have on Thursday. I don't have it, well, yeah, I got this, event going on, but I can have that going and schedule and meet with him, Thursday morning.
What about Friday?
Friday would be, it's okay, well, Friday, it's Friday, so this Friday. I could do it Friday. I have nothing going on Friday.
Okay.
Friday morning, by 10, 11 o'clock.
Okay,
We do it at 11. Let's look at 11.
that will be perfect. So Mike will send out another meeting invite, and we'll also invite Ms. Frazier and Mr. Mason.
Okay. Yeah, I
Alright,
think both of them need to
yeah, they do
hear
need to
this,
be.
cause it's like, there's no way I can answer half of them questions. Mr. Mason do a lot of the development, he's over the development project. Ms. Frazier knows more about development, but I would be the round person collecting most of the data, you know,
Right.
so.
Okay, so we have another meeting.
I don't know if it's good for her though, you know, cause she has some things going on, so I don't know if it'll be good for her, but hopefully it'll be good for him.
Okay,
But you can still invite her if she's available.
okay. Alright, so that's what,
Grant kickoff follow-up meeting, right?
Right, do you guys have anything? Do you have anything for us before we go?
Girl, no, I don't receive enough. I don't have no questions, Serena.
Okay. Alright then.
I know, when the more money you get, the more, it entails, when it comes to.
More money, more problems.
More money, more problems, you got that right, so, that's what it's gonna entail, I'll make sure I have him, he'll know, and when I talk to him, I'm going around them now to the other offices and then I'll, let him know.
Okay,
that we're going to.
have a follow-up to the kickoff.
Follow me.
Yeah. Okay, then we'll talk to you on Friday at 11 a.m. So you have a great rest of your day.
Okay, thank you so much.
Alright, thank you. Bye
All
now.
right, bye-bye.
What do you guys think?
Seems like a nice lady. We worked with them before and they've always been,
Tons of years.
yeah,
Tons of
always been
years.
good to work with. But
Yeah.
I think if she's saying that
So
they
what
had
I
the-
wanna say, first of all, is that all our clients are like this. They have not read the grant announcement, that's what they're paying us for. They don't need to know. We need to give them the information in an easy, bite-sized way where we take very little of their time and get the job done. We make the difficult simple. If they have to see our homework, if they have to see how hard it is, that's the easiest way for them to cancel on us. So we just have to let her know, all you need to do is sign here. All you need to do is just send this here. Don't worry about it, I have it all taken care of. They don't need to know any of the backstory. They don't need to know, they don't wanna know, they don't have the capacity to know. She has a full-time job, she's probably overworked. So our job is to make it easy. So the next meeting on Friday, someone else is going to take the reins, explain the grant in a very simple fashion. Basically work more closely with the developer because otherwise we will overwhelm her. So that's my game plan. Sounds good? So, if you can send her an email and find out, cause one of the issue is we need the minority concentration tool, that's an issue, cause if she's over the 50%, that's,
Yeah.
we're dead in the water there, so even that we should knock out just for eligibility's sake.
Yeah, so I'll send her an email reiterating, and then, I'll give her, estimate, I guess, she said 20 to 25, I figure I'll give her 20, at efficiencies for the low end and 25 at 1 bedrooms for the high end, and then that way
The
she'll see.
total development cost, you mean?
Yeah, for the prac, the estimate,
Okay.
Yes.
So you can send her, this development
Yeah,
schedule.
yeah, I have that.
So if their region is in there, or if they're not exactly in there, close to, and as well as, this is the total development cost, so just times that by whatever units, and
Yeah.
then we have the operating schedule here, so you're gonna send both of them to her.
Yeah.
So that's the operating schedule there. So these are the per unit operating cost, that's times by the however many units.
Okay.
They said they're the health department, I don't know what organization.
Okay, thank you. Alright, we're good? Okay. You stick this in her folder for me?
Oh god, it all hurts.
It all hurts. Can you, stop that? You can stop it.
It's not doing anything.
No, it's not.
Okay, so it never.
Oh no, it is. I'm just